Hello, everybody. Listen, welcome to Wind Down Wednesday. If you are here right now with me, I want to say thank you. This is the last Wind Down Wednesday of March, and it is the session the whole month was building towards. 4 weeks ago, we opened this up with cortisol and sleep. We moved through meal timing, circadian biology, the exercise paradox, and this week we landed on the estrogen stuck pattern, the congestion problem that has kept so many of you stuck despite doing everything the right way. So today I want to ask you a question that I suspect nobody has ever asked you clearly. How many of you have been working on your hormones and your cortisol as though they were two separate problems, two separate supplement protocols, two separate conversations with your practitioner, two separate bodies of research you have been trying to apply simultaneously? I want you to take a moment with that. If that is you, and I would guess it is most of the women watching me tonight, well, today is going to reframe something significant, okay? Because listen, they are not two separate problems. They are one system failing at 2 points simultaneously. And the reason most interventions have not moved either picture is that they address one without understanding it is being driven by the other, okay? That is the conversation that we are going to be having today. So I want to walk you through 3 specific mechanisms. This is not a general stress affects hormones conversation. The pathway is precise and it is worth understanding precisely. Point 1, shared phase 2 liver detoxification resources. Cortisol and estrogen are both processed through phase 2 liver detoxification, the conjugation stage that packages compounds for excretion. Phase 2 uses a finite pool of enzymatic resources, glucuronidase, sulfation, methylation. These are the pathways that package both cortisol metabolites and estrogen for exit. When cortisol load is chronically elevated, those pathways are running at or near capacity managing cortisol traffic. Estrogen arrives at phase 2 and finds the queue is full. It does not clear. It waits, and while it waits, it recirculates. This is why a woman can do everything correct for estrogen, dim broccoli sprouts, cutting alcohol, and see no movement in her symptom picture. Her phase 2 is occupied. The estrogen intervention is technically correct. The sequencing is wrong. Point 2, cortisol suppresses bile flow. Bile is one of the primary exit routes for conjugated estrogen. After phase 2 packages estrogen for excretion, it moves into bile, travels to the gut, and exits by stool, through your stool. Chronic cortisol elevation suppresses bile production and flow. The gallbladder becomes sluggish, transit slows. Conjugated estrogen that was correctly packaged by phase 2 now sits in a sluggish biliary system instead of moving through. The liver did its job. The exit route is congested. This is the layer that explains why women with estrogen stuck pattern often report feeling sluggish after eating, why digestion feels slow and heavy, and why the right side of the body under the rib cage feels congested or tender when pressed. Your body is telling you where the traffic jam is, okay? Some practitioners are not listening to that signal. Point 3, inflammatory load disrupts the estrobolome. The third point connects cortisol to the gut layer of this picture. Chronic cortisol elevation drives systemic inflammation. Systemic inflammation damages the gut lining, alters the microbiome composition, and creates the conditions for beta-glucuronidase overactivity. Now, in our group, our community, you heard this in the glow drop, okay? Beta-glucuronidase unpackages estrogen that was already processed for excretion, sending it back into circulation. Now, what the glow drop in the community did not explicitly say is this: the gut dysbiosis driving beta-glucuronidase overactivity is very often downstream of the chronic cortisol and inflammation that came first. The gut problem is not separate from the cortisol problem. The cortisol problem created the conditions for the gut problem, and the gut problem is now sustaining the estrogen recirculation. 3 points, 1 conclusion. You cannot address estrogen clearance effectively while cortisol load remains chronically elevated. You are intervening downstream of the primary driver. The cortisol has to be part of the response first. I want to move, sorry about the noise, into a recognition exercise now. I'm going to walk you through 3 clusters of signals, okay? Each cluster corresponds to a different part of the dual pattern picture. Now, as I read each one, I want you to notice, not diagnose, not score, just notice what resonates with you. Cluster 1, cortisol dominant signals. Wired at night, unrested in the morning. Energy crashes between 2 and 4 p.m., then rebounds around 6 p.m. or after 6 p.m. Mind running when the body is exhausted. Weight concentrated in the midsection specifically. Recovering from stress takes days, not hours. Waking between 2 and 4 a.m. with elevated heart rate or racing thoughts. Take a moment. Now, which of these is your body right now? I want you just to take some time and just think about that. I'm giving you some time. I just want you to think about it. All right. Cluster 2. Estrogen recirculation signals. Weight concentrated in hips and thighs that does not respond to effort. Bloating with no clear food trigger. Breast tenderness, cyclical or persistent. Mood that shifts sharply, especially pre-cycle or in its absence. Reaction to 1 glass of wine that feels disproportionate. Histamine responses that have appeared or worsened in recent years. So take another moment. Now, which of these is your body right now? Okay? Take some time and I just want you to think about it. There's no rush. There's no rush. There's no rush. All right. Cluster 3, the dual pattern overlap signals. Both clusters resonate. The cortisol picture and the estrogen picture simultaneously. Tried interventions for both and neither move significantly. Feel like 2 separate bodies are malfunctioning at once. Lab results that have been described as normal despite a symptom picture that is anything but. Exhausted but cannot lose weight, sleep, or think clearly. All 3 at once. The harder you work at it, the more stuck the picture becomes. Now I want you to take another moment. Which of these is your body right now? Take some time and just think about it. Just give it some thought. Let that kind of marinate as you think. I really want to give you some time to think, to really do your own self-assessment or self-awareness of what is going on in your body right now. Okay. I want to talk about sequencing because this is where almost every well-intentioned clinical approach breaks down for women carrying both patterns. The mechanism I described earlier tell you what is happening. They do not tell you where to start. And where you start matters more than most women have been told. Here is the clinical logic. If you begin with the estrogen clearance work, supporting phase 2, addressing the estrobolome, taking the targeted supplements, while your cortisol load remains chronically elevated, you are asking phase 2 to do additional work in a system where phase 2 is already at capacity. You are adding to the queue rather than clearing it. If you begin with the cortisol work, regulating your HPA axis, reducing the inflammatory load, restoring bile flow, you are clearing the primary congestion point before adding estrogen-specific interventions. Phase 2 has capacity. The exit routes open. The estrogen work has somewhere to land. Sequence determines outcome. The same interventions in the wrong order produce no result or a worsened result. Now, here is where it gets archetype specific. A cortisol-wired woman with early stage estrogen recirculation has a different entry point than a cortisol-wired woman with advanced estrobolome disruption. An insulin-inflamed woman carrying both patterns has a different inflammatory starting point than a T3 downregulated woman carrying both. The sequencing question is not a formula. It is a clinical assessment that depends on which pattern is primary, how far downstream the secondary pattern has progressed, and what the body has the capacity to address right now. Within our private community feed, you were given the mechanism map. In the glow drop, it showed you what is upstream. Today showed you why cortisol has to be part of this response and why sequence determines outcome. What it has not given you is your specific sequence. That is archetype work. That is clinical work. And that is what premium and our premium level is built to do. We are going to close the clinical content there and we're going to move into practice. Okay. Now, what I'm talking about, for those who don't know, is what I mentioned in our group. Now, I'm about to guide you through is not a protocol. I'm not prescribing frequency, duration, or sequence. What I am giving you is 3 inputs. 1 for your nervous system, 1 for lymphatic flow, 1 for the liver. That can be used today in this order, and you can use it as a wind down. Okay. I want you to find a comfortable position. If you are seated, put both feet on the floor. If you are lying down, that is fine too. We are going to take a few minutes, okay? Just a few minutes. I want you just to follow along with me. Number 1, the nervous system downshift. Physiological sigh, double inhale through the nose, long, slow exhale through the mouth. The double inhale reinflates collapsed alveoli in the lungs and activates the parasympathetic response faster than a single breath cycle. Do a couple of rounds and then allow the breath to return to its natural rhythm. Please don't force it. Simply observe whether the exhale lengthens on its own. It usually does. So 2 inhales through the nose, long exhale through the mouth. Number 2 is the lymphatic movement sequence. So gentle heel bounce. So you're going to both of your heels lifting and lowering rhythmic while seated or standing. The lymphatic system has no pump of its own. It moves with muscle contraction and movement. The liver, the gut, and the breast tissue are all lymph dense. 2 minutes of gentle rhythmic heel movement stimulates lymphatic flow through these areas without taxing the nervous system or spiking cortisol. This is not exercise, it's drainage. Okay, so I have my feet on the floor and I'm just doing a rhythmic lifting my heels and bringing them back down, showing you with my hands. Okay. So you can just do that. You hear my chair? I know this probably, you might think this is too simple, but trust when I tell you it's not. Okay. And then the third is the liver meridian body scan. So place your right hand gently on the right side of your body below the rib cage and over the liver area. If you want to close your eyes, you can. No pressure. Simply warmth and attention. Okay. Breath into this area. Breathe into it. Allow the exhale to be long and complete. In traditional medicine and in somatic practice, placing conscious attention on an organ with warmth and breath is a recognized way of increasing blood flow and reducing tension held in the surrounding tissue. Cortisol wired women, estrogen stuck women very often hold significant physical tension in the right side of the body. So this practice does not require belief in any particular framework to produce a physical response. You can stay here as long as you need. Now, when you are ready, okay, I want you to bring both hands to your lap and take one more long exhale. Now, what you just did addresses 3 points in the dual pattern picture simultaneously, without a single supplement, without a protocol, without a prescription. Okay. Now, y'all, that is not nothing. That is the nervous system doing exactly what it needs to do to begin creating the conditions for the clearance work to have somewhere to land. Okay. Now, before I close today, I want to name something directly. What we covered just now, the cortisol, estrogen, liver pathway, the sequencing requirement, the reason interventions fail when they are applied in the wrong order, this is the clinical foundation of the work I do with women in structured support. This coming April, I'm excited because I'm running the 90-day cortisol reset, a cohort program built specifically for women carrying the cortisol wired pattern, including those carrying it alongside the estrogen picture that we mapped today. The program, y'all, works through the cortisol architecture first: HPA axis regulation, the inflammatory load, phase 2 capacity, and sequences estrogen support into that foundation once the system has the capacity to receive it. That is the clinical logic from today, made into a structured 12-week protocol. The founding rate closes April 7th, and there are only 20 spots. If today resonated, if the dual pattern picture is yours, the details will be listed in the link below, okay, in the description. That is the only time I will mention it today. That's it. I'm only going to mention it. That's it. And you'll be able to find more information from the link. Now, March. 4 weeks, we came into this rhythm restoration. Some of you watching had been here since February. Some of you joined this month. Some of you joined this week. I welcome all of you. Wherever you entered, you now understand something about your body that some practitioners don't teach, okay, or don't want to explain or haven't explained. You understand that sleep disruption at 2 a.m. is a cortisol event, not an insomnia problem. That meal timing is a circadian signal, not a calorie calculation. That the exercise that used to work is now working against the system it was supposed to support. And that the estrogen picture you have been managing maybe for years is a congestion problem. Upstream in the liver and the gut, not a production problem. That is 4 weeks of clinical argument built in sequence. Each week was a layer. You now have the full picture. April, next month, moves into the nourishment shift. What you eat, how it is timed, and how it is sequenced for your specific archetype. That is where March builds into something actionable. Everything we did this month was preparation for that. Everything was preparation for April. Rest well tonight. The practice you just did is enough for today. You did not need to add anything else. And I will definitely see you next week for April, the first April for Wind Down Wednesday. Talk with you soon. Take care. Bye.